from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studio in Boston, Massachusetts, and the Gurkha Cigar Studio in beautiful British Columbia. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Mitchell Santaga.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTabacco.com, and I am once again broadcasting live from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studios in Boston, Massachusetts, and north of the border in beautiful British Columbia. It's also of SmokinTabacco.com, Mr. Mitchell Santaga. Mitchell, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, fantastic, fantastic! It's been a good week. Some warm weather rushing back into the city of Boston, so it's still feeling like summer right now, which is nice. We'll take it, here in October. What about up there in Canada? How's the weather up? How's the weather up there, eh?
So, in a lot of places, it's starting to cool down, but here it kind of like levels out, but it rains a lot. Like, it rains, like when people say, like, oh, the UK, it rains a lot, like, yeah, it rains at that level. We technically actually live in a rainforest, which people forget about, which is on fire every summer, ironically, but yeah, it rains like crazy in October. So yeah, it's pretty much been my forecast is it probably rains for about 4 or 5 days straight, and then maybe there's sunshine or no rain for one day. But at least it's not super cold. But yeah, we went to a pumpkin patch over the weekend. That was really fun.
Oh, we did as well. Although the pumpkins were pretty picked through, so.
Oh, really? Already picked through?
Yeah, already gone.
Man, we had
kind of depressing.
Yeah, our pumpkin patch is huge, and we have probably about 5 or 6, maybe 4 accessible ones. So it doesn't get picked through until about mid-October, which is great. And they grow sunflowers as well and corn, so you get fresh corn on the cob. You get to pick some sunflowers, and we got a couple of nice pumpkins. And yeah, it's also a petting farm, so we get to pet tons of animals, goats, like kittens, bunnies. Yeah, it's a good time. My daughter loves it, so I enjoy it too.
Yeah, it was our first time taking Anastasia to a farm. We were really excited to get into the fall spirit, and I wore my flannel. We got her all loaded up. We get to the farm. It's like fucking almost 80 degrees. Take my flannel shirt off.
Wow.
And then we get down to the pumpkin patch. After like I had the stroller, and there's like this steep hill down, and I get all the way to the bottom, and then we're just like, that pumpkin patch is like bare. There's like nothing there. We're like, what a waste of time. And then we like went back up. It was kind of sad, but it was still cool. We got to.
Did you guys get to like ride a tractor at all?
No, we didn't do that. We mostly ate and drank, and my sister and her fiance had a little bit of auntie and uncle time, so that was nice. But
Are you
yeah,
pro or con pumpkin spice things?
there was a time when I really liked it, and now I don't mind it. Like, there's certain things I'm like, these are good, but I'm not like one of those people that's like, it's September 1st, it's pumpkin time.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, like a good pumpkin muffin, pumpkin donuts. Like, I always find them to be really good because I think those flavors go well with those kinds of things. The pumpkin coffees are not bad. Nicole, as you know, is a big Nespresso person, so she gets the limited edition pumpkin pods every year because she's a little bit more into pumpkin than I am. Which we've also found pairs really well with the Buffalo Trace Bourbon Cream. If you've ever seen that before and you've been like, I don't really need that. I just want Buffalo Trace Bourbon. No. Get that Bourbon Cream from Buffalo Trace. It is amazing. If you thought Bailey's was good, this will make Bailey's taste like trash. It is delicious. Very delicious.
I don't think we get that up here.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's really, really good. Go ahead.
My favorite pie is actually of season. It is pumpkin pie. I love a warm pumpkin pie with a scoop of vanilla ice cream. One of my favorite desserts. It's my favorite. It's my favorite pie. And hot take, my least favorite pie is apple pie.
What a joke! Are you serious?
I know. Yeah. My least. I pretty much take almost every other
loser.
pie.
Apple pie.
Lemon meringue, mixed berries, chocolate pecan, pumpkin. The list goes on.
Cherry pie is where it's at. Yeah.
Hard cherry pie. Oh man,
Woo!
the list goes on about pies that I'll take over pumpkin any day. So I'm not saying I'll I'll give up a pumpkin pie, but there's, it's, again, hot take. It's my least favorite pie.
Nicole's here, and she says, I'm on the hunt to find the perfect cigar pairing for pumpkin spice coffee. And so far, she's got a good one. The Intemperance, the Volstead that just came out. She had the pre-release that she smoked the other day with some pumpkin spice coffee, and that one was I think that one was a good one for her. I think so far that's the one to beat, and I think Skip Martin was pretty happy about that. I saw he chimed in on that post.
Maybe she should try an H99. I feel like the H99 might go well with that.
She did say, and I'm not trying to blow through these comments here, but she just commented at the bottom here. It was the Liga 10 before that. So before that, it was the Liga 10. So there's also a Liga on that list. So, and speaking of Liga, we have a guest with us tonight who can talk to us about Liga until he's blue in the face, because that's right, it's our man On from Drew Estate. Let's bring him in here. I don't want him to wait any longer. Here he is. On, welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show.
Hey, man, what's going on?
Hey,
Thanks for having me.
It's good. No, we're excited to have you. It's Wednesday night. It's show night. It's just what we live for. So we're here, and we're glad that you can be here with us for once. It's always great to see our friends from Drew Estate, but to have you on, I think this is your first time, and I always enjoy our conversation. So I'm looking forward to this a lot.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I love telling and talking about what's going on at Drew Estate. There's always a billion things going on, and it's a beehive of activity. So, yeah, glad to be here.
Now, are you pro or are you anti pumpkin spice? Is it, or are you just indifferent?
Yeah, you know what? I won't lie. I'll get some pumpkin spice creamer for some coffee here and there. I'm not going to order a pumpkin spice latte, but I'll put
or at least you won't admit it,
All the basic girls just went, I don't like On anymore.
Yeah. They flip their Louis bags over there. They're
just like, how dare he?
I'm out of here.
Huh. That man doesn't have taste. It's like, okay. Good luck with that theory.
Soon he's gonna say he doesn't love cake pops.
Anyway, back to the topics at hand. We have a couple of segments that we're going to get to first, and then we're going to kind of dive deep into everything Drew Estate with On. First and foremost, shout out to our friends at 2guyscigars.com. If you head over to the number 2guyscigars.com today, you'll find an amazing selection of cigars and cigar accessories from the industry. Hundreds and hundreds of names that you probably all know and love, and maybe some that you haven't, and you should check them out. But you can find Drew Estate's products there, including Undercrown, Liga Privada, Acid, I believe Deadwood's there too. I have to check. But all of those fun ones that you know and love, the number 2guyscigars.com. On, you are our guest tonight. What are you smoking with us?
I am smoking Liga Privada H99 Phineas Gauge. We made the cigar. It's in the Lancero format, and you can only get it at events. So right now, if you go to a Drew Estate event, and you can find them at drewestate.com/events. That's where you can find this cigar. People are always like, where can I find this? Like, you have to come to an event. And we always love people come to our events, because if you've ever been to a Drew Estate event, it's going to be different than any other cigar event you go to. And that's just like the crowd we attract. It's the tribe that we're a part of. And, people love being around us. And that's what we try to bring to the stores and make shit exciting. I think about, I started in cigars maybe 10 years ago, right? And my first Drew Estate event, you know what they had? It was when they launched Herrera Esteli. So Willie Herrera's there with a rolling table and rolling cigars. And I just started smoking cigars. And now I work with him, every day, texting him about this tobacco and blends. And yeah, it's been a crazy ride, man. An amazing ride.
I can only imagine. I mean, it's Drew Estate. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and the events in stores, your standalone events that you guys hold, from your Barn Smokers to your Savage Feast event that you guys did last year, to even your presence at the trade shows. Drew Estate is kind of like the Burning Man of the cigar industry. I mean, it is a wild time whenever you get together with them. There's plenty of goodies to be found. There's no shortage of entertainment. And I don't think I know anyone who's been to a Drew Estate event of any of the above and was like, that was all right. Like, usually when I hear someone come back from a Drew Estate event, regardless of what kind of event it is, it's like, dude, That was good. I want to go to the next one.
Epic.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, I found out about Drew Estate event by, I just started smoking cigars, and they're like, we have an event. I'm like, what is an event? I don't know what an event is. So I went, and yeah, I met dudes there, and our sales guy Ben, he's still there, and just learning about tobacco. People like, I saw a guy with like a chain kind of like this, right? One of these like brand chains that we have, and I was like, where do you get that? And like, well, there's only one guy that makes it. And now I go to an event and I have like 6 or 7 of them. They're like, where do you get that? I'm like, there's only one guy that used to make them, and now he makes watches. But that's just part of like the our events and how that all unfolds. But going to an event, it's what changed my mind about cigars. I was like, this is like cool, just to be around people that love tobacco or want to tell stories about the factory. I remember one guy who would be like, do you know there's blind people that work at Drew Estate? And I'm like, what do you mean there's blind people? They're the ones that sort the tobacco. And when I go to the factory now, I see those blind people. They do actually sort our tobacco because like that's just what we have there. It's just amazing.
Yeah, that is cool. I mean, you guys have really built out quite the company and the reputation, and I think you guys probably are the number one that has the most fun in the business. I have to say, and anyone who's been to a trade show. The music. That's all I'm going to say. If you've been to a trade show where Drew Estate's there, you already know what I'm talking about. That's all I'm going to say. It's the talk of the town every show. It's, the music from Drew Estate. I mean, it is a full-on party over there the whole time. And if you don't go to that booth and say hello to An and Willie and Pedro and everyone else and enjoy the essence of their entertainment, you did not have a good trade show. That's all I'm going to say. But we'll dive.
Your first trade show. Like I remember my first trade show. Right, I snuck in, and I walked into the store, and the first thing I see is the Drew Estate booth. I was like shooting video for doing blogging stuff, but the thing you see is this giant bridge, right? And it's like the biggest booth. It's the loudest booth, and I'm like, what is this? And I remember I snuck up on top of that bridge just because I gotta just get up there. And I snuck up there when nobody was standing at the stairwell. And now I work at the company, so I can just go up there whenever I want. But it's like, we're coming back to PCA. It's gonna be super exciting, and it's like the band is back together again, man. And I'm just like, this is gonna be like the greatest time ever. And of course, we're gonna come there and make a bunch of noise. That's what we do, and have some excitement. It's like, how do we do it? I don't know how. We're working on that plan, but it's a little bit over 6 months out, 5-6 months out, and it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to talk more about that in a second.
I'm very excited for that. I've been to 2 trade shows, and they've both been non-Drew Estate trade shows. So,
so you haven't done a trade show yet.
I'll be experiencing it next year.
It'll be official once you go to a Drew Estate trade show.
Yeah. But what are you smoking, Matt?
I was gonna say you're not smoking, right? So
no, I've got just hanging out with me this beautiful M81 Toro.
Mm-hmm.
Just being in the presence of it, I feel better. So
yeah, there you go.
On my little Drew Estate.
Like he pulled out all the swag tonight too. This kid did his homework. Look at this.
It's on its little pagoda.
It's got the bag in the back.
Yeah, it's on its little pagoda.
There you go.
Resting peacefully, looking at me.
I am smoking the Liga Privada Aniversario, or also commonly called the Liga 10, in the Robusto format. One of my favorites. These are delicious. You can find these at the number2guyscigars.com. They're not always in stock, but you can sign up for alerts and put in your email, and they will let you know when they're back in stock, and then you can purchase them at that point. But you can go on there and check them out only at the number2guyscigars.com. And with us tonight, cutting and lighting, and pretty much almost all of our accessories here on the show, no one better than ST Dupont. We are joined with ST Dupont tonight for all of our cutting and lighting needs. I am using the Defi Extreme in the petrol blue color. This is brand new, a nice matte finish. That twin jet torch lighter with this amazing, the size of that fuel window on the side is impressive, I have to say. I mean, are
those jets angled?
They are. They do angle slightly towards the middle, so they come to one point. Fantastic lighter. Fantastic lighter. Fires right up, nice and strong every time. SD Dupont, be exceptional. So let's get back to On. Now that we have done our first few segments of the show. On. You've already kind of lightly touched on so many things, and I'm so excited to kind of break them all down with you. But first, one of the big things I want to talk to you about is Drew Estate this year, from the outside looking in, and from the media perspective, this has seemed to be the year of Liga Privada. And I'm sure that there's been other years of Liga Privada, but this seems like a substantial one. I mean, you guys have really gone in a lot on the H99. You've expanded it. You've introduced, I know you're smoking the Phineas Gauge, you've introduced more sizes to it, event exclusives with it. There's been a lot going on there. So I guess we'll start with H99 and we'll kind of drift off from there. But yeah, I mean, there was a time when H99, I mean, that was like more rare than Opus X. I mean, like you couldn't get one to save your life, and now there's like all these sizes, and you even got it in the Papas Fritas size, which I have right here, which is awesome because it's a great blend, and I love this size. But yeah, man, just talk to us about it. I mean, what's going on with H99? I mean, this brand has blown up for you guys.
Yeah, so I mean, let's rewind back 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, it was the 10th anniversary of Liga Privada, and we're all working on this project, and we had a blend ready, and it was a good blend, and we all smoked it. A lot of people at the company, and at the end of the day, we're like, we like this, but we don't love this, and I was like, I'm worried about when you put out something. Here's the thing about cigars: the easiest sell is the first sell. It's new,
right?
But if it's not good enough, guess what? No one will ever buy it again. They're not going to buy a box of it. They're not going to buy a fiver. They're just going to forget about it, and it's not their cigar. And that's kind of how we felt. We're like, I think it's going to be good, but it's like, this is Liga. When you think about like great brands, one of my favorite brands is Mustang, because here's the thing. Every Mustang is made by people that make Mustang, right? The engineers, they all have Mustangs. They've had Mustangs in their family for generations. So they know what a Mustang looks and feels like when you drive that car.
Yep.
So when we're smoking that cigar, we know what Liga Privada should look and feel like when you're smoking that cigar. And it didn't resonate with us. And so we went on a limb. And we're like, what else do we have? And the factory, they bring us this wrapper, and they bring it just in pure, they roll the cigar straight up from the wrapper. And we're like, all right, let's try this shit out, right? And we lit it up, and we're like, ooh. And it was very clear. I was like, I don't care what you put under here, but this we can call Liga Privada. And so, we picked that route, and it was definitely a super hard route. And definitely my boss, JD, was super upset about it because it was definitely a harder road. Because, when the tobacco forecast came out, the amount of tobacco that we had was just like a paltry amount. We had, if you recall 5 years ago, what we did was we raffled it off every month.
Yeah.
So the only way you could find it was like whoever won the raffle that month, you could go chase it down. And if you were lucky, you get a box. And most people are really smart with it. They're like, oh, I'll put it in a sampler pack and I'll move a bunch of other core products. But, so you fast forward now to today's, present world, all of the tobacco forecasting and thinking about how big and how much we need, which is a lot. Finally, all that tobacco has come through. It's taken us years to ferment this tobacco, to get the supply that we need to be able to have it consistently on the shelf, and finally come out with new cigars with it in terms of new sizes. You look at the Phineas Gauge. I mean, you put that wrapper on a small ring gauge, and that wrapper is a proprietary Corojo and T52 cross. So it's a hybrid, and that's what the H and H99 stands for. But there's nothing in the world that tastes like it, and there's a reason for it. It is the only type of leaf that exists of its kind. And that was what makes it groundbreaking, And
I was going to say, was it specifically designed and hybridized for Drew Estate?
Yeah. We were like, hey, what if we did this? It was a conversation with our farmer, and he's like, yeah, let me go work on that. So, what happens is then you grow the tobacco in an experimental, a small crop, and then you got to ferment the tobacco, and then you figure out, okay, is this going to be something we can work with? And, we love this tobacco. It was very clear from us from the get-go that it's like a super thick wrapper with tons of flavor on it. And so when you have the DNA of a T52, which is already like an incredible, cigar wrapper, then you add in Corojo, Cuban seed Corojo, then it just gives it another different dimension. So a lot of people, when they smoke the H99, they're like, well, it doesn't taste like a 9, but it's not supposed to. Its DNA is not 9. It's not broadleaf. When people smoke Anniversary, they're like, yeah, that tastes like 9. Well, yeah, it has DNA of Connecticut broadleaf and then Criollo. And so that's the difference between the two. And like I said, we spent 5 years working on this. And as you get byproduct material, smaller leaves of the crop, trimmings from the crop, then that's what becomes papa frita. So it was just like being able to plan out all this stuff ahead of time. And that's a lot of what my job is, planning out what we need in the future, because we look at it and we're like, every new cigar, that's a cigar we want to sell years after year after year. It's not about doing it once and making a nice limited edition. No, it's about getting cigars in people's hands where people go, this is my favorite cigar. And when I pick up a Phineas Gage, I think about all the hard work it took to make the cigar. And I'm like, it burns right, it tastes right. And I remember, I'm like, this is the only cigar that I can ever remember when it came in the office and we were like, let's smoke this, man. I started yelling, going like, we did it. We made a great cigar. And I'm like, anyone that smokes it, and most people love this cigar. And I'm like, I'm glad that people share our opinion of what we think about the tobacco, because we're like, this is some of our most special tobacco that we've been working on for so many years. I mean, you think about 18-month fermentation time, a year and a half to sit in fermentation. Most tobaccos are probably either fermented about 9 months. That's the typical fermentation time in most factories. But with this material, because it's a lot thicker, we have to ferment it for a lot longer. And so, hey, you grow a crop, 4 years ago, it takes a couple of years for it to get ready, where it burns right, it tastes right. And now, because we've planned so far ahead, and I've gone to the fields, and I don't know if you guys have gone to our barn smoker, but when you go to the Connecticut River Valley onto that farm, I mean, it's hundreds of acres where you're just looking as far as the eye can see, and it's beautiful. This year was a challenging year. It was a very wet year in terms of tobacco, so we'll see what we get out of it this year. But, I always think about how much planning it takes to make a successful project happen and have sustainability in it. Because that's the other thing going on right now in the tobacco world. Massive shortages of tobacco everywhere. The labor crisis in Nicaragua recently has impacted tobacco availability. Think about it. Farmers have to grow tobacco. If there's no people to work the fields, well, you're not just going to grow a bunch of tobacco you can't take out of the field. So it's caused a lot of stress across many companies of just like making your product consistent. But, the labor situation in Nicaragua is improving. But definitely, it's a huge challenge for any company operating out of Nicaragua right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen and talked to some other manufacturers who deal with those kinds of issues. Not only just in Nicaragua, but there's been some in, like, the Dominican, from people we've talked to. But yeah, certainly, and those are definitely challenges that you have to address and you have to face, and they're not easy too. And you guys just make it look so easy, but I know that it's a lot. So I mean, I can understand, the excitement too. Like when you talk about, when the H99 really came together and you guys smoked it and you get excited and you're like, oh shit, like we got it, and then you start to build on it and then you start to expand on it, and then when you have the inventory, like, well, what else can we do? And it's just amazing how it's kind of like a slow roll, and then you get the momentum, and then it just takes off, and then it takes away from you, and now, I mean, you guys are doing really well with that brand. So, it's exciting to see. It really is. You introduced the Lancero, the Phineas Gage, which was that this year, or was that like the end of last year? I can't remember. When did we?
It was like the end of last year, and then we this year we put out Super Ancho, which is a 6x60.
Right.
So going from like Lancero, which is like my favorite format of cigar, we came up with the 6x60, and I was like, it's missing something, man. I think we need to like do more with it, and it just needs to be more. This is Liga, so when it's Liga, we really hold it to a really high standard, and it's very rare that when Willie works on something, I'm like, hey, we need to go back to the drawing board on this, and I think it's not missing like there's some flavor or something on it. And so now, one of the things I'm most proud of when I go out there and people are smoking that Super Ancho, they're like, yo, I don't smoke 6x60s, but holy cow, this is a really great cigar. And I'm like, yeah, that's by design. It's by intention. And I'm like, listen, man, the cigars that you put out, any company, it speaks to who you are. And I'm like, if we're putting out some of the best cigars that we can, then that's who we are. We're trying to do that every single day. And that comes from talking to Rubio, who's our head guy down in Nicaragua. And I remember my first conversation I ever had with him. I was like, thank you so much for making this cigar happen. And it was when we released like Pappy Van Winkle. And he's like, here's the thing. As long as we can be working on the best cigars in the world, then that's where I want to be. And I'm like, I always have that deep in my heart too, that like, we want to put out great cigars. And that is our core business. You can look at the Drew Estate Circus and all the great things that we have as part of our culture. But I'm like, at the end of the day, our core business is selling cigars. So if the core product that we sell is not good, I mean, we're always looking for that next level and making it better and improving. Status quo is not in our DNA. It's always like every day is like, well, how can we make it better? What can we change to make it like cooler or more exciting? Even when we put out cigars, we think about, the number one criteria that we use when we're evaluating a product and new project concept is like, does anyone care? Because if the people in the room that are making the cigars don't care, then like, let's go on to the next thing that like we think we care about and that we're excited about. And guess what? If we're excited about it and genuinely we believe it's a great cigar, then all of our sales guys can go to and with talking to their retailers and have an honest conversation like, this is the next great cigar, and we believe it.
You're gonna have that confidence behind your product, and I got that.
You got to know who the cigar is going to speak to, right? Like you said, it's knowing the brand and knowing like, you pick up a Liga and you're like, well, is the Liga smoker going to pick this up and go, this is Liga, right? They've got to instantly just say, this is Liga, right? And yeah, super important.
That was a huge debate when we came out with Anniversary on H99. So when Willie came out with this like Ecuador Sumatra a Sumatra wrapper, right? And we were like, this is okay, we don't love it. And then Willie, his first question is like, who is this cigar for? And then we're like, who it's for? It's for the people that love Liga and want that next level Liga. That's what this cigar is for. And once that we told Willie that, it was so clear to him to what that blend needed to be, and that's what became H99 and Anniversario. And that getting that perspective of like, and constantly, we're always asking like, who is this cigar supposed to be? Who's supposed to smoke this cigar? Like, it's constant. Like, my job, a big part of my job is all the new product development, right? So every new cigar that we're putting out, I'm like, who is this cigar for? Is it for people that don't currently smoke Drew Estate and we want to attract new smokers? Is it for people that want to spend a little bit more money and go for elevated? Or is it something like Factory Smokes, which is like, this is a different class of cigar, but look, we're going to get in the $2 bundle game and we're going to try to make the best $2 cigar on the planet. And, the numbers bear it out on how much Factory Smokes we produce, and I'm like, I remember talking to Willie about, he's like, why are we making this cheap stuff? I was like, there's a person out there that's all they can afford. But You know what? Let's make them the best cigar that they can get at this price range. And it's still true to form. And I'm proud of that because I'm like, we delivered for those people that need that Factory Smokes and want to smoke 25 cigars a day, or maybe they just want to chew on it. Because actually in the design of the cigar, we put extra tobacco in the head because we know people chew on cigars.
Right.
So it's a lot of thinking behind what we're trying to do every single day on like our products and what people say and think about it. Because what's funny, if you go to any of the big catalog websites and look up Factory Smokes, there's 1 billion reviews, and it's the most astonishing thing because we're like, why are people talking about it? Sometimes it's because it just surprises them where they just feel something so much, and I'm like, that's what brand management is about. Your brand is what people say it is, how they feel when they think about it, and I'm like, look, if people say Drew Estate makes the best cigars, they have the best swag, they have the best events, they have the coolest people hanging out, I'm like, that's the company I want to work for. And I'm like, I'm fortunate that I feel like, well, that to me is what the best cigar company is. And I feel like we have it, and it's something that we take very seriously. I mean, think about when the pandemic came and Barn Smoker had to get canceled. Well, we're like, let's send out everybody the gear and let's refund them all their money, and it's going to cost a lot of money. But guess what? We want to take care of our tribe of people that like buy into the belief in Drew Estate. And if you believe in us, well, hey, we want to have a relationship with our consumers and make sure that when they feel and think about Drew Estate, they're like, those are the only people that cared. That like, yeah, it costs a lot of money, but you know what? When you do things right in business, there's an adage which is like, do the right things, and money will come, and people will believe in you, and that's what we try to do every single day. And I'm proud to work for a great company.
Yeah, you guys really have done a great job with that, and I remember that. I think did you guys call it the Goodwill Act or something
Yeah.
like that? I thought that was really clever, and I liked that. But yeah, no, I mean, it's true. I mean, I would say, pre-pandemic, the business was very, and you've been around maybe a little longer than me, so you could probably speak to this too. But I felt like the business was not as in touch, especially digitally, or, it was mostly a lot of brands focused on traveling around to shops and doing events and having customers come to the stores, which is fine, and people still do that, and those are successful. But I think because of the way the pandemic forced everyone to have to interact digitally, a lot of other brands slowly started to build on that and use that, and they've stuck with it now since because they saw how well it worked. But Drew Estate's one of those brands who's been doing that stuff the whole time, and if anything, just got even better at it in that process. Um, mentioned the barn smokers, your in-store events, some of the other things you guys do. You're always very, and online, social media, whatnot, stuff like that. You guys are very, very in touch with your customer base and your fan base. And I think one of the biggest things, which you've implemented even with H99 and some of the other products that we'll probably touch on, from the last couple of years, was the Freestyle Live. I mean, that Freestyle Live thing that you guys do, I think has been such a hit, and it's such a great way to get the consumer involved in what you're doing, announce a new product, get them excited about it, you tease it, they get to be kind of part of it. They smoke the cigars, unbanded and blind, and everyone comes out. I remember when, Joe and Jack were there, and I used to talk to them a lot, being, in the marketing and the media side. And I remember every time one would come out, I'd smoke it, and I would text them and be like, it's got to be this. And they're like, I can't tell you. And they'd all laugh and giggle. And then the freestyle would come out, and they'd say, all right, it's this. And I'd be like, oh, damn, I didn't even see that coming. Or like I'd be like, I knew it. It was along those lines. I was close. But and I think that that's fun in itself. And I think that's a huge win for you guys, really perfecting that Freestyle Live program.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about trying to let people just have a cigar without the bands, I mean, so many times, like, the band is what the brand is, right? But if you can just have people smoke something and you don't know what price point it comes in at, you don't know what the guts of it are, you just have to rely on your own experience, right? Your
Yeah.
own intuition, your own knowledge, your own palate, and it's very subjective. And I feel like when people get this insider view of like, hey, this is going to be a new cigar, and you don't get to know what the fuck it is, right? And there's an excitement level to it where it's like, what is it? And getting people to talk about your brands in a positive way. I mean, look, like I said, we're always working to make good cigars. We're never going to put out a bad cigar and put it in Freestyle Live, and then people are like, this is not good. I mean, hell, we put Nica Rustica into Freestyle Live. That's a $6 cigar, and then we put Undercrown 10, which is like a $12 cigar. And it's just like,
Yep.
getting people the diversity of what we do every day, because it's all these cigars are for different people. And we're like, look, if you can just add one more Drew Estate cigar to your rotation, then guess what? You are supporting the people of Nicaragua. And that's really what cigars come down to. It's like, look, everything that we smoke, it's made by Nicaraguans, and it's made by people with families, and it supports all those people. Every time I go to that factory floor, I see 1,000 people bang out cigars, and I'm like, I have to take it in for a little while and go like, yeah, I do my job. Everybody here has a job. And that to me is like my pride, because I'm like, that's what gives me extra meaning when I go to work, and gives me like a determination that like we're never going to fail, because we can't fail all those people at the factory that rely on us to make cigars exciting, because that's what it's about. It's not just about, I go like, yeah, our core business is selling cigars, but that's not what we're selling. We're selling the whole kit and caboodle, the swag, the events, the experience, and the camaraderie. The number one reason anyone ever goes to Barn Smoker is meeting people. It's not about the cigars, it's meeting people. And it's crazy to think, but like, cigars are a social activity. Look at us right now. We're smoking and we're talking and we're social. There's a lot of people out there that don't have that. And I think a lot of people crave to be able to just sit and have the time to smoke cigars and enjoy good company, because that's what the premium cigar industry is all about, man. I mean, if you're around cigars, like you're around great people that teach you such great values. give more than you take. That's the number one thing cigars has taught me. And I'm like, the worst thing you could be in cigar industry is a taker, and everybody knows who that is. It's quick, and
The
everybody knows it.
mooch.
And like, that's the person that is not with our core values of give more than you take. And the other thing is, don't be a dick, man. Like, nobody wants to sit around like nasty people or
It's true, but it's
people
funny.
it is, right? Those are the things. It's like, don't be a dick to people, and be generous with your cigars, right? And that's what the cigar community taught me when I got into it. That's what made me a cigar smoker. It was not the cigars itself. It was the people that surrounded it. And I'm like, this is why it's the best industry to ever work in. And I'm like, how can I ever have a bad day when I work with great people every day? I get to work with you guys. And I'm like, yeah, man, life's great, man. I mean, Drew Estate, things are going well here. And I'm like, it's another record-breaking year. We're always working to increase our capacity. I mean, I sit there and I'm like, I just told the guys the other day, I was like, look, I can sit here and say we will sell every cigar that we make next year. But it's not about that. It's about making the next generation of new cigar smokers that want to get in this lifestyle and be a part of our tribe. And I think about that and I'm like, my journey started 10 years ago, being like a guy watching these type of shows, right?
Right.
And going like, what a cool world the cigar is, right? And now I'm on the show talking about what I do for a living, and I'm like, it only became because of people like you guys letting us tell our stories about what we're about, and letting people know, like, hey, we are so passionate about cigars. The entire marketing department is full of cigar geeks down to the last person. And I'm like, that's something you don't get at every cigar company, where it's like, oh, the brand manager came from Coca-Cola, or this marketing person doesn't smoke. It's like everybody at our company that works in marketing smokes, man. And it's great because we all know what cigars are about. We know what good cigars are. And we're like, if we're excited, we know our consumers are excited because we are the consumer.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot too, and that really speaks volumes, because you create this culture from within, and then you attract it back. And Drew Estate's one of many companies that has been successful and has such a hardcore following. But you guys do have that, and you're right. Not every brand has that, and not every brand has it from the outside and the inside. And I think that is what makes Drew Estate so successful and so popular. Is that mentality and the culture that you guys breed from within, and bring out to the consumer, and they sense that, and they get excited about the products, and they want to be part of the community. And it's not just about the cigars, but it is the social aspect. And there's Drew Estate groups, there's events, and there's so many different things for people just to get together, just to socialize. And the cigars are kind of secondary, but at the same time, the cigars is what brought them there in the first place. So it's kind of this I don't want to say balancing act, but it's, because it's really not. But it's this two-way street, right? You have the cigars, but at the same time, it's more than just the cigars. It's about the people. And Drew Estate's a great example of that mantra that we've seen.
I would definitely say a lot of that comes from my boss, right? JD. He's a guy that has spent, he's not a guy that came from a famous family or had a famous name. He had to go build everything from scratch. And, I remember the first year I worked with him, he's like, I have been on the road for 300 days a year for the last, I don't know how many years. He has concierge key for American Airlines, which means like you're basically lifetime cut the line, and you're the super priority because he's flown so much in his life. But here's the thing. Even 27 years in the game, or whatever the case is, he still shows up at the office 8:30 in the morning. He beats everybody to the office except our CEO. And the number one thing I would say when you start learning about Jonathan Drew and working with him is his unbreakable work ethic. I mean, this guy works, and I'm like, how are you still firing crazy long emails and texts on a Saturday or a Sunday night? He's just constantly thinking about work and how we become a better cigar company all the time. And when you have that DNA ingrained in the head guy, guess what? That becomes the culture. I mean, we work hard. But you know what? We get to have a lot of fun while we do the hard work because we love the work. It doesn't feel like work. I was looking at today. I was like, how the hell is it 3:30? Because I was having a meeting about merchandising. I was talking to a swag vendor. I was talking to our creative director about new products and new packaging. I had a swag meeting about stuff. I had a meeting about other packaging of different box manufacturers. I'm like, man, there's a lot going on. But I'm like, that's why I love my job. It's like, it's never a 9 to 5, same stuff every day. It's like, next week I think I'm going to Chicago. Then the week after that I'm going to Kentucky. Then the week after that I'm going to Nicaragua. Then I take some vacation in Mexico City, and I'm back in Nicaragua. And I'm like, yeah, it's not the same thing. It's not
never
monotonous.
a dull moment.
Yeah, there's different things to work on all the time, and we always have an appetite to just have fun while we do our work, and that's what makes it rewarding too. It's like we have fun. We know it's for a good cause in terms of like supporting our family in Nicaragua, and we know like, when you hear the consumers talk about our cigars and how much it means to them, the craziest thing I've seen is when people come on hard times and start selling their swag. And the swag is what gets them through the day. And I'm like, thank goodness we're making something that people care about where somebody else can pay their bills because of that. I've seen it more than once. I'm like, it's amazing. The secondary market on the swag. I'm like, that's crazy. But like, it's part of our culture, right? You can't buy any of our swag. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, well, unless it's secondhand. But yeah, it's crazy. There's groups dedicated just to selling Drew Estate swag. It's nuts.
That was my job for a short period of time, and that's when I came up with like the Liga knife and Liga backpack and all this stuff. But yeah, it was a fun job. But I have people doing that now, and I'm like,
that shit's cool too.
Yeah, JD one day he was like, "You have way more important things to do, so you got to let this go." And I was like, "Why? I'm doing great." He's like, "You don't have the time for this stuff. Trust me." And I had to let it go, and I was like, "All right, cool. I do have other stuff to work on, and that's improving our business and how fast we can come up with products and brands and making things work." And I'm proud to say, our 2024 lineup is ready to go. We've already started putting a bunch of cigars in production, and I'm like, it's gonna be a hell of a year next year.
I'm already sensing a couple more freestyle lives for next year. So
yeah, we want some.
We one of the things I wanted to ask you quickly, in terms of the Acid brand, the Acid brand is one of the strongest core legs of Drew Estate. I mean, that's arguably one of the most important brands in the Drew Estate umbrella. It certainly goes back so far. Are you guys planning on continuing to expand on that, or do you feel that it's more important to preserve the strength that it already has and just continuing to just focus on that and make sure that it stays consistent and it continues to be the brand that millions of people know and love today?
Yeah, let's talk about Acid. When most people in cigars think about Acid, right? Most people are turned off by the sweet tip and the infusion, and they're like, it's not a real cigar. But I'll tell you something. I remember before I joined cigars, I talked to Pete Johnson, and I was talking about Acid or something. He's like, I would kill to have a brand like Acid. And, when I joined the company, Acid is the #1 cigar in America. It's in the most amount of places. But the people that smoke Acid are not like cigar geeks like us. Sometimes it is, because a lot of people that smoke Acid do smoke other traditional cigars. It's not just like the sweet tip guy only smokes sweet tip. There is a huge percentage of people that do. But think about it. Why is it at Publix grocery store? Well, guess what? People go and they grab their cigar and they go home and they smoke it. And they smoke it by themselves a lot of times. And you go to a lot of retailers, they're like, that's the brand that people go, grab, and leave. And so it's a different consumer that smokes Acid. But, the average cigar consumer in America only smokes 1 cigar a month. And when they smoke a cigar, typically it's going to be on the mild side. That's why Connecticut Shade is the #1 wrapper in the United States and probably in the world. But Acid, is a very mild cigar, very approachable. And for us, any good company wants strong core brands. So when you think about Acid being our #1 brand, our #1 cigar, Blondie and Cuba Cuba usually are 1 and 1A. And, we want to keep that focus on Acid, the core brands that we have. So, yeah, I mean, in the future, we might do some more limited editions with Acid. Certainly for Acid 20th anniversary, we definitely made Acid 20, and that was a great, celebration of that brand, because it really is a brand that shouldn't even exist. Like I said, most cigar smokers are like, what is this cigar? This is not a cigar. But I'll tell you, we just did an experiment the other day, and we brought in Cuba Cubas with no sweet tip, no infusion, and we gave it to a bunch of our sales directors. Hey, what do you think about this cigar? They're like, holy cow. I would pay like $10 for this cigar, because this is actually a really nice, mellow, approachable cigar for what it is. And I'm like, exactly. And that's it's not like we put like short filler in the cigar and just infuse it and then like, this is a premium cigar. No, it's a long filler made from good material that I mean, we sell so much acid that there is a paint color called acid blue. You
Wow.
know, so it's amazing what that brand does every single year, and how many places that it lives. And I just went to a head shop the other day. My friend wanted cigarettes, and I was like, I wonder if they have. Of course, Blondie was right there on the shelf. I'm like, yep, we're doing our job.
9 times out of 10. And again, like you kind of already touched on this, but most cigar smokers are not like us. I'll run into people and someone will say like, "Oh yeah, like Matt, like he does cigar stuff, or whatever," and "Oh, I like cigars, and what do you like?" 9 times out of 10, "Oh, I like those acids. I don't know the blue ones." Sometimes they know the name, sometimes they don't, but it's always the Cuba Cuba or the Blondie. Those are probably like the two I get the most, and they always know what they are, whether they know the name or not. They know the cigar, and it's always it's in the casual cigar smoker. You mentioned some people or most people they only smoke like once a month, maybe a couple times. The people who are much more casual than we are. So they don't really know all the brands. They don't know all of the inner workings, but they know what they like. And it's always like, oh, yeah, I smoke the acids. And you get that more than I think people would even believe. And it's like, oh, yep. And it's like, no, and I hear that and I just go, yeah, no surprise. I mean, almost everybody I know who has at least dabbled in cigars smokes the acid. And while, for me personally, I don't smoke a lot of infused cigars just because of, well, what we do. We're always smoking so many different things. I will admit there's times when I get that craving and you're just like, I could really go for an acid today. I don't know why. It just kind of comes out of the blue and you're like, you know what? Let me see if I have any. And I'll go in the humidor and there's usually at least a couple kicking around. And I'm like, nice. And I'll grab one of those. Even for me, I mean, the Acid 20, the Connecticut that you guys came out with, I think that was that last year, TPE, I think we saw that for the first time in 2022. Phew. For what it is, I mean, you talk about the sweet tip and it's not, like other cigars. I mean, it is different, but for what it is, I mean, man, that's a pretty good cigar. That was like the acid for me. That was like, wow, this is impressive.
I mean, the
I
next
call that
cigar
my
that
favorite acid.
yeah, I mean, we now have another brand, right? And it's a brand. My friends work in cigar shops, and they're like, I can't tell you how many people come up to me and go like, I don't know what this cigar was, but there was like a girl with a skull on it or something like that. And 9 times out of 10, it's Deadwood, man. And that's another brand where, yeah, it has pipe tobacco in there. It has the sweet tip. It's super approachable, and that's become another one of our mega brands that's a runaway hit. And if you talk to almost any retailer in America, they were like, "Where's my Deadwood?" It's like we're making more Deadwood than we've ever made in the history of this company, and we still can't not make enough. And it's a good problem to have. It just shows you like people respond to the branding. They respond to the good tobacco in there, and it's somebody's go-to cigar. And actually, at the Barn Smoker, we're in the parking lot at 1 a.m. smoking cigars, and a guy came up. He's like, "Wait a second, are you guys Drew Estates?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're Drew Estate." And he's like, "No way. Drew Estate is my favorite cigar." I'm like, "Wait, really?" So he's like, "Let me run in my car." So he runs to his car, comes back with a little Herfador, 10 count. Every cigar in there was Deadwood. And then he's like, "You know what? I have the tins too." And he started passing around the tins. I'm like, and then he starts showing his humidor at home. 95% of the sticks in there were Deadwood. The other 5% were Tobacco Special. And I'm like, this guy loves Drew Estate. I'm so glad we were able to find this random guy in a parking lot at 1 a.m. where he finally met other people that smoke cigars. And he's like, "This is awesome, man." And he just felt like he belonged. And I'm like, that's what we want with people. Like, we want to be able to hang out with people and be like, "You belong with us, man. Like, you're one of us too."
Yeah, and then you hear about, not to kind of deaden the mood, but it's like, then you hear about, the flavor bans that, different states and even at the federal level that, it's being talked about. And, and you think about, when you think about people like you guys, like Drew Estate, and you have such a huge part of your portfolio with products that would fit under that criteria, and imagining a world where cigars like that are illegal to have is mind-boggling. It really is. It's crazy. Like, to think that that would happen, and this is why we also talk a lot about PCA and CRA and advocacy and stuff like that on the shows, because we try to spread that message, because I think that there's a lot of people out there who just, they hear it but they don't really pay attention to it. They think like it's not really their problem, or yeah, it won't happen, or there's other people who will fight the fight. But no, I mean, everyone who smokes cigars should know about it, and try to let their voice be heard in any way they can, because it's true. It's true. I mean, they want to come after, all the cigars, and now they're starting to try to go after it piece by piece. And the flavored cigars are front and center right now. That's one of their biggest targets. And if you love acid or tobacco especial, all those other cigars, you got to let your voice be heard, and you have to reach out to your local cigar advocacy groups, talk to your local retailers, get in touch with the PCA, Cigar Rights of America, and find a way to help, or sign the petitions that go out from time to time, because it is important. And people like Drew Estate, who've done such a great job building a brand and making amazing cigars, they face that, and it's a scary thing to think about. But I bring it up because people need to be thinking about it so that they can help prevent it from happening.
Yeah, and a lot of it is a big educational effort with legislators, letting them understand these are premium cigars. We don't, a lot of it comes from the vape world, and for vape, a long time it was unregulated. There was also companies that were targeting minors as smokers, and no one at Drew Estate ever is like, we're always like young adult smokers. These are the only, nobody's buying, like, kids aren't buying a $10 cigar and trying to smoke premium cigars. That's not what. And the thing about the data, it's always confounding, right? Like, what is a premium cigar, and acid is a premium cigar. Like I said, it uses long filler tobacco, and it's made handmade. It's not, and it uses great tobacco. So for us, it's constantly trying to educate, legislators on, hey, not only, it also has a huge economic impact on retailers in America. Like I said, it's the number one brand in America. So when you want to impact that on an economic level, it's going to have huge impacts there. Also, it has huge impacts in third world countries and the labor that is required to go make all the acid in the world.
Very true.
So for us, we spend a lot of time just educating legislators so that they understand, like, what is this? And it's easy to just, if you don't understand it, you're like, oh, it's flavored, so it's got to be bad. It's got to be for kids. But, a lot of it comes down to characterizing flavors. And so you can't say acid is any single flavor. If you gave acid to 100 different people, you'd probably get 50 to 100 different taste profiles of what does this taste like? Well, it doesn't taste like cherry. It doesn't taste like watermelon, blueberry, or any of these things. So again, it's not like we're trying to make it appealing to minors. It's all about young adult consumers. And that's always who should be smoking our cigars at the end of the day. And that is who is smoking our cigars at the end of the day.
I always try to bring in the Canadian perspective here as well. And I don't know if we've talked about this, but flavored tobacco is banned in Canada. But the acid is not. The acid got an exemption, and pretty much all like premium cigars that were infused or flavored actually got the exemption. So it was all cigarettes flavored, banned fully in Canada, 2010. And then in 2015, it was all tipped and non-real tobacco leaf wrapped cigars were also flavor banned in Canada. So it can happen, but to all the good thing, for at least for Drew Estate, was that acid was recognized. At least I don't know if there was, because I wasn't really too heavy into it back in 2010, but I don't know how. But obviously Drew Estate fought to get some recognition, at least in Canada, saying, hey, these are not targeting kids. These are not a cigarillo. These are not just like something that people are just going out and buying. These are premium cigars. They don't have, like you mentioned, they're not watermelon flavored. They're not cherry flavored. It is, an undefining characteristic flavor that has been infused in the cigar. And obviously at the end of the day, government overreach is constantly happening in every country. But already having at least your neighbors knowing that we've been able to win a small battle by getting the exemption on a lot of the premium flavored and or infused stuff is good, but it doesn't mean you should be, counting your laurels. Everyone needs to step up and come to the plate here and really fight for their rights to enjoy these things for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, it's about educating our legislators and just having conversations with them. Bandwidth for legislators is very small. And when you look at the premium cigar industry, it's a small industry at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, there's just been proposals for new taxes on premium cigars, and that could be crippling to this business. So certainly, we'll keep those conversations open, and that's something that we constantly try to engage with on many different fronts, whether it's on the municipal level or whether it's on the federal level. That fight's got to be fought all the time. And certainly acid is in the crosshairs, and we want to educate people that, again, it's all about young adult consumers. It's not about minors. That's not what these cigars are for, and nor do we try to get young people, like minors, to smoking cigars. That's just not what happens.
Very, very true. Yeah, it's something that again, we'll continue to talk about and try to educate in every way we can to anyone who listens and tunes into our shows and our content on our website, to continue pushing that message. But I wanted to touch on that because I think it's important, and I think having on Drew Estate here tonight obviously is a great platform to and a great guest to have that conversation with. So there's your legislative talk for the evening. I'll make it brief. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna go to the news really quick, and then we'll circle back to you. Guys, our news is once again brought to you by Micallef Cigars, featuring the... Sorry, I was looking for the tab. Featuring the Micallef Black, rated 91 at SmokinTabacco.com. Micallef Black, it is a blackout. This week, so a couple of things have come up from Habanos. And I'm going to talk about one of them here. But Habanos, for those who don't know, that is the Cuban state-run cigar manufacturing company that makes all of the Cuban cigars from Cohiba, Trinidad, Partagas, Romeo, all of those brands you may have heard before from Cuba. That's the company. But what I think to some Cuban cigar smokers or cigar smokers who know a little bit about Cubans, somewhat of a kind of lesser known brand in the Habanos portfolio, I should say. The Vegueros. Habanos has introduced a new size of the Vegueros called the Centro Gordos during the 2023 Caribbean Habanos Days event in Wilmstead, Curacao. Habanos S.A. introduced a new size of the Vegueros line called the Vegueros Centro Gordos. In a memorable weekend full of activities, the third edition of the Caribbean Habanos Day took place and the Contiki Hotel. They have introduced this size, which is it is at the bottom here. It's a 54 by 100 millimeter, which I think translates to like
4 inches.
Yeah, so new size there. The Vegueros is a brand that Habanos says pays homage to the tobacco farmers in Pinar del Rio, the section of Cuba, or the region of Cuba, I should say, where most of their tobaccos are grown. This will be going out, I believe, this month to retailers, obviously outside of the United States. The Cuban cigars are still illegal in the United States, but to our international listeners and viewers, there's a new size of Vegueros. There's also going to be a new size in the Hoyo de Monterrey that's going to be exclusive to duty-free shops. You can read more about those at SmokinTabacco.com in our cigar industry news section. So don't forget to check that out. As well as, I'm gonna hit on this right now, and then I'll circle back to it a little bit more at the end. But we are running a Drew Estate giveaway. That's right, our Drew Estate giveaway, featuring some awesome swag items. The links are posted in the comment section if you're watching with us live. If you're listening to us later, it'll be in the description. So if you're looking for that link, just head in there, or just head over to SmokinTabacco.com. You'll find it in our news section. Just scroll down there, and you can click there, and you can enter by commenting in the comment section your name and your email address, and 3 winners will be selected. One will get an H99 ashtray, an Undercrown. One will get an H99 ashtray, an Underground ashtray, and a Underground humidor. And those 3 winners will be selected and announced on this week's Spare Notes show on Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. So don't forget to check that out. If you entered, make sure you watch that show. That's going to do it for our news for the week. Let's bring On back on the show. There he is.
the Vegueros is a weird brand. It's like a new Cuban brand, and honestly, it didn't get really much like love by anyone. But because every other Cuban cigar is like so hard to find right now, they're just
They're
like,
shifting
oh,
down.
well, I'm gonna just like buy this because it's here, and now people are like, oh yeah, Vegueros, and like, but still, like, pretty much anyone who grabs them tends to be like, yeah, put these away for 4 years before I smoke them because it's out of the box they're not always the best.
Well, you know what's interesting about Cuban, and it's funny, I don't want to spend too much time on this. This is probably more of a spare notes topic, but, the Cuban cigar topic always comes up. It always comes up, especially when I meet people and they have cigars. One of the first things they ask me about is Cuban cigars. And every time it's like the same thing. It's like, oh, okay. It's time for that discussion. And it's like, it's crazy, a lot of the times it's just, if here in the United States, it's because you can't get them. People think that they're extra special, and in my opinion, they're not. In fact, the stuff that's made in Nicaragua and the Dominican Republic, I think, far exceeds what's coming out of Cuba right now. And there's a lot of reasons why. And like I said, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but it's interesting. But, one of the things I learned about Cuban cigars is, for the most part, they're all pretty much the same. And I know there's people who will disagree. And I have literature and research that I've been given and I've done myself that kind of proves that point. And it's true. And when you really think about it, it's not like in Nicaragua or the Dominican, they have all these different types of tobaccos and interchanging. I mean, they all use pretty much the same tobaccos, more or less. And that's not to say that it's not good tobaccos. I mean, Cuban tobacco has a taste. It's distinct. You know it. But it's all very similar to a degree. And so, it's funny when I hear people say, well, the people who smoke Cubans, like, I only smoke Cohiba because, it's Cohiba. It's like, well, there's a lot of other Cuban brands out there. If you like Cuban cigars, they're not going to be too far off. And they're probably going to be a fraction of the price and maybe a little bit easier to get. And I try to tell people that, and nobody ever wants to hear it. But whatever. It's true. So anyway, that's my spiel. That's my spiel on that. I don't want to waste your time with Cuban cigar
Well,
talk.
I mean, the Cubans have brands, right? And the brands make people feel something. That's what you have a great brand. People smoke it and they're like, this feels like a Cohiba. That's why, so many consumers buy Dominican Cohiba. It sounds similar, so people want to have that
yeah.
smoking Cohiba feeling, right? I've seen it. People walk in the humidor like, I'm smoking Cohibas. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get geeky about it, and nor do I want to be a dick and ruin their day, right? So it's like,
yeah, I know. It's true, and it's funny. I had a conversation with someone who's, during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, when everything was still closed, someone who's in the know with people from Habanos had said, Habanos had done some research that said that during the lockdown, when people weren't, in lounges and stuff, they actually saw a plunge in Cohiba and Trinidad sales, and they saw a spike in some of their more affordable cigars. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And someone said to me, yeah, a lot of it has to do with the fact that people are not in lounges and stuff like that, and the name effect, to a degree, is less important for a lot of people, I think. And I always found that interesting. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Cohiba was down, but like, the Sancho Panza, like the original Sancho Panzas and all those other brands were up. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. But anyway, that's
I always joke with my Cuban smokers. I'm like, oh, how many bands does that have? Oh, only one band. I don't think that's going to be good. You need a Cuban cigar with at least 3 bands. It's got to have a foot band. It's got to have the pre-band. It's got to have the regular band. If you got a sleeve on that, wow, that thing's probably going to taste amazing. It's all about the bands for Cuban cigars. That's all that makes it taste good. Because really, that's all the difference is. It's all, they only have so many growing regions. There's only so many different primings they can use. It's all the same seed, and
it's true.
And that's it.
It's true.
That's all they have.
Sorry to ruin it for those of you out there, but it is true. Do a little research.
And hey, it tastes. They have a very unique taste, and
they do.
Just like Nicaragua does, just like the Dominican does, just like Honduras, and every single place that tobacco is grown has its own unique flavor. So if you like that flavor, then you like that cigar, and you're always going to get something in that wheelhouse from Cuba. Then that's the guarantee there.
For sure, for sure. Um, anyway, let's shift our talk back to on at Drew
Yes.
Estate. We'll talk more about Drew Estate because I think that's pretty important. We've talked about Liga, we talked about Acid, you talked about Deadwood, which it's true. It's been fun to watch that brand, grow. I remember the first time Nicole was like, I want to check out Deadwood, and she smoked through. And she found like the ones she likes. I don't know which ones she likes, but there's some that she likes a lot more than the others, and I know those are some cigars that she really enjoys, and and Nicole smokes everything, kind of like we do, and she has a very broad palate. But yeah, there's some of those I know are some of her favorites. She loves those Deadwoods, and it's true. The more shops I go into now, and I see it more and more, and it really is. It's becoming this amazing brand that's kind of, I don't want to say popped out of nowhere, but it seemed like it grew very quickly. And that's been exciting to see. Outside of that, we'll kind of turn our focus back to some of the other projects you guys are working on. I know Mitchell has with him, and I know he's not smoking it, but you guys, one of the other really exciting things that Drew Estate has done in recent memory is you have worked on the M81 project with, the blackened American whiskey, which is also kind of a collaboration with James Hetfield of Metallica, which is exciting to see. We've seen a lot more celebrity collaborations, so to speak, in the industry as of late. Not that they're new. They've always been around, but I feel like in the last few years we've seen a slight uptick in those. But the one that you guys did was very exciting, and that is a project that's been really cool to see. I know, I love Metallica, and so that was, awesome. And I know a lot of people I talked to were like, oh man, you see Drew Estate, they're doing that. And I was like, yeah, that's badass. And that was a freestyle live cigar as well. Talk to us just a little bit about how that project came to be. Did you guys approach them? Did they approach you? Kind of how did that start?
We used to have a guy, Frankie Drinks, and I remember he brought up the idea because he knew some people over there, and he brought us the idea. It's like, hey, this could be a really groundbreaking project for the company, and he just wanted to connect some people together. And once we got connected, what we found was like, James Hetfield doesn't drink, so one of his hobbies is cigars. So as he got into cigars, he wanted to work on cigars, as well. So certainly when we go through the blending process, that's got to pass his muster. And luckily, he loved the Corona. That's his favorite size of cigar. And actually, if you go to any Metallica concert, he's now made a new ritual where before the show starts, he goes out there and he lights people's cigars up and he smokes with them, and I'm like, that is so awesome.
It's badass.
And he's like a cigar smoker, he has huge humidors and he loves our cigars. And so that's how that started, and Blackened American Whiskey is our brand collaboration. That's why it's Blackened M81, the M81 for Metallica's first album in 1981, and Blackened American Whiskey, I mean, that is a growing brand. And so it's exciting to have a partner that can bring that extra dimension. Because if you think about flavor, that cigar is Maduro to the core. And that's something that we learned, with licensed brands and things like that. We want to make the cigar special. You can't just put like somebody's name on it and then expect that the cigar is just going to fly and resonate with the cigar consumer. We want it to resonate to whiskey drinkers. So that's why, it's not as dialed up as an Undercrown 10. It's a different blend and different fillers. But that was one of their concerns when we were working on the project. They're like, this sounds scary as an all Maduro cigar, because in everybody's mind, Maduro is like power, strength, and tons of nicotine. But one of the things that we did with it was to make it an approachable cigar, and one that pairs well with the blackened, American whiskey, which that's 80 proof like blended whiskey. So it's not like going to be something where it's cask strength. They do have some things that are cask strength, some of their limited edition expressions, but the cigar is going to stand up against that too. It's a very complex cigar, and that Maduro, it has a sweetness to it, and then we put that Pennsylvania Green River One Sucker, which that's a very heavy filler, so it has tons of flavor to it. And obviously when we launched the product, we put a really aggressive forecast on what we thought it was going to sell, and the consumers responded, man. The consumers responded, and they've been going back to. I mean, we're still back ordered on stuff a year later. It's embarrassing, but at the same time, it speaks to our success, and it is a cigar that has resonated where people, like I said, your company is made on core brands. It's not about the first sell and the first time you place a product on the shelf. It's about how many times can you turn that product and make it so that people feel like it's their cigar. And so whether you're a Metallica fan, you're a Black and American whiskey fan, you're a Drew Estate fan, we made something that can resonate for all those different audiences. And the number, I mean, I remember when we started posting about it. My friends that didn't smoke cigars, they're like, what is this? This is Metallica cigar? I was like, yeah, I mean, it's a project we made with Metallica and to go with their whiskey. And it's been a great project to work on. They're super fun people to work with. Rob Dietrich, their master distiller, is just an all-star to hang out with. One of those people where it's like, what a great human being and what a great person to be around. And that's the type of people we want to have partnerships with. People that are easy to work with and like what we're thinking, and we think in the same way. And, for us, like I said, we were all about making people excited. And, I think people are still excited about that cigar, and I'm proud of that. That's something that we work really hard on to make sure that our core brands are strong, because it's like, that's the bread and butter of your business. I mean, you can make as many limited editions as you want, but if you want to grow that limited edition, you got to make more of that or make more. And people get fatigued. They want to see something different. But at the same time, like people buy boxes of cigars because they're going to smoke through their favorite cigar. And it's something that people want to go back to again and again and again. When we can do that and make people feel like it's their cigar, then we're winning. We're winning that battle of everybody else trying to make their cigar everybody's favorite cigar. So it's a hard thing to do, but we've been very successful with Blackened, and it's been a very successful partnership. And hopefully down the road we'll have some new releases there at some point. But it's going well, and I'm happy with it. And I think like I said, partnership is something we take pretty seriously at Drew Estate, and we're always trying to find great partners to work with, and it's a long-standing relationship that we have with everyone at Blackened, and it's a great team to work with, and they're a lot of fun too. It's funny, even their sales guys are great to hang out with and kick back with.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, go ahead, Mitchell. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question just about. Obviously, you guys mentioned you're getting ready for the PCA, and one of the things that a lot of these collabs do is they bring in a key figure with the collaboration. Are you guys thinking of or looking or trying to possibly get James Hetfield to the trade show, or even like Rob Dietrich himself from Black and Whiskey? Obviously, James is an extremely famous person and extremely busy, but like, has it been toyed with, or is it just something that's like, this is way far out of our scope of being able to happen at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to make excitement happen, and certainly coming back to PCA is a great relief to me, because there's nothing worse than like you're sitting at home and watching everybody else have fun and have a great time all together, smoking till 5 a.m. or whatever the case is. I mean, so when we're back, I mean, I'm ready to go back and just see everybody. That to me is probably one of the most enriching things, is just to be able to see the people that we do business with, see our media partners, see our collaboration partners, and just all be together. So James Hetfield, I mean, he's a busy dude. But I will say, like, our booth is going to be better than it's ever been. And we're going to bring the fireworks, man. I mean, that's what we're known for. And we like to please the crowd. We know we have massive expectations everywhere we go. And that comes with that desire to make people feel like it's awesome, right? And so if we can do that every day, that's what defines our success. Are people excited about our cigars? Do they want to buy cigars because they're having a great time? And can we celebrate our cigars because they're good cigars at the end of the day? Yeah, I want to check off all those boxes. And I know anywhere we go where there's a trade show, it's going to be busy. It's going to be like we're under siege. But you know what? There's nothing than being surrounded by your favorite people that you do business with, and your favorite people just in general. Because like I said, the premium cigar industry is just filled with so many great retailers, consumers that sneak in, and of course the cigar media, which I have been a part of cigar media, so I know what a hard job it is to carry 40 pounds of gear, walk 10 miles a day on that floor, and your feet are just killing you by day 2, and you're just like, holy smokes. But guess what? We'll go out to dinner and have a great time eating, and
we still smoke till 5 in the morning.
Yeah, and that's the game, and that's what PCA PCA is, and we're ready to go back there and make some noise. And I remember the last PCA we were at, we were giving away $10,000, master cases of Cuba Cuba, and I remember it would be like around 4:20 every day. People just show up at our booth, and the whole trade show was frozen. And I was like, yeah, man, people care, and they want to be part of the circus, and we want to deliver those exciting experiences for people. It's like, I remember the first show I saw, it was like we had Chocolatito, one of the legendary boxers from Nicaragua, and I remember they were ringing a bell, and I was like, what is this, man? And I was like, what a great circus to watch. Or one year we had the pipe makers from Suge, and they're sitting there in a booth like making pipes, and I was like, just create the circus where people feel like I got to go back. I just got to see what the fuck they're doing. I mean, that's just what we do, and I'm like, we have huge expectations, and we're gonna meet them, and we're gonna exceed it because that's what we aim to do every time.
It was very exciting. Since we're on that topic, it was exciting to hear that you guys were going to be coming back to the trade show. I think first it was kind of like this domino effect, and when General said they're going to come back, they're going to use what would have been the Alec Bradley booth and make it a Forge booth, and then Alta just said, hey, we're coming back too. And then you guys had your sales reps there and some of your other staff in the Hoya de Nicaragua booth, which is normally part of Drew Estate, but they came back just kind of on their own, but there was Drew Estate personnel there. So I know that's, technically not like a Drew Estate return, but, you guys were, some of you guys were there, and that was really cool to see. And then, we got, the word like Drew Estate's coming back in 24. It was like, awesome. And at least 3 out of the big 4 companies that did pull out prior to PCA 20, well, what would have been 2020, but ended up being 21. And I'll say, those first few shows, I mean, those were my first few PCAs, and so I didn't really know. I'd been to TPE, so I'd seen you guys there, and I know what the booth and stuff was like there, but still, it felt smaller, and and then this past show, it really started to kind of get big again, and it felt, the general vibe from a lot of the people I talked to, who even people who had criticized the PCA trade show the last couple of years were like, this was a good show. And so, I mean, with you guys being there in 24 again, man, it's already feeling like it's going to be a good show. It doesn't mean it will be, but it's already feeling like it's going to be a good show, and it'll be really exciting to see you guys there too. And I think that your presence was your missing presence was felt, and I think people will be excited to see you guys back in there again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I think that one of the most enriching things is watching our salespeople hang out with our customers. Yeah, they're done with their order, but guess what? They're still going to hang out. They're still going to want us to like smoke our cigars and just engage in our circus. And so we'll bring the circus. That's a promise. And you'll see what we're coming up with. We're working on that plan. It's not too far away. I'm like, March is just around the corner, guys. And,
it is.
Yeah.
Cigars are made and we're ready to rock. So I'm like, hopefully no back orders, but if we have back orders, that means we did a really good job.
So so in a sense, what you're teasing is that you guys are going to come back with a bang.
Got to. I mean, it's what the world expects out of us, and it's a huge responsibility, right? And we'll meet the moment. That's the thing. It's like sitting there and knowing that like all eyeballs are going to be on us. And we can't come out looking like we forgot what a trade show needs to look like and feel like, and because we constantly think about it. It's like, well, what do we want people to think about when they leave the Drew Estate booth? We literally talk about that for hours on end, and come up with what we think that experience should be, and that's including guys like you. Hey, you guys come to our booth. What do we want you guys to see and talk about and feel about where we're going? And that's a big part of what we do. So, there's a lot of thought in it. It's teams of people constantly thinking about this trade show because we're like, it's the Super Bowl of cigars. I mean, even the years we weren't there, I was like, it's still the Super Bowl of cigars, and so I'm excited because it's like you bring out your best product and you're going to go toe to toe with everybody else's best product, and may the best products and best cigars win, and I think like we have a great track record of delivering excitement and success for our retail partners and also delivering great cigars for our consumers, and I'm like, that's what we want at the end of the day. It's virtue. It's excitement. It is what we're about, and like I said, that experience speaks to who we are. And that's what we're trying to do every single day, whether that's at the point of sale at an event, whether that's, hey, somebody just found out digitally what Drew Estate does, whether that's random people adding me on Facebook, even though I've never even heard of them. But
Right.
everybody wants to be around us, and it's a great thing because you know what, the magnet that Drew Estate built when I was a consumer, I wanted to see everything that Drew Estate was doing too, because it was just so interesting to me to just see like this is what people get to do for work, and I'm like, yeah, man. And now I work in this crazy thing I never even planned to do. Dude, I have a master's degree in finance. I'm not supposed to be working in marketing in any capacity, but here I am. And good luck getting me out of there. You're gonna have to kick me out, dragging and screaming, but it's really rewarding to work in premium cigars. I mean, I can't say enough great things about this industry and how proud I am of our factory team and everything that their sweat, blood, and tears that they put in every day, man. I mean, we've had endless problems, and that's every factory working in premium cigars, and we're constantly finding a way to persevere and make the cigars happen. That's the biggest thing, and the cigars are happening, and that's what I'm always proud of because when and I talked to Willie about this last time we were in Nicaragua. It's like, what is the difference between now and when you started making cigars for Drew Estate 10 years ago? He's like, it's the scale. Every release we have to make sure that we have enough tobacco. The worst thing you could do is manufacture back orders. That means customers are waiting for product. That means like somebody convinced their consumer to go buy the cigar, and now they can't say when the cigar is coming back. And that's a problem across all of this premium cigar industry. Think about PCA. People are going to launch products in March, but probably the vast majority of those products are going to come out in June, in November. People just shot all their bullets at the last PCA show. So now they have a new PCA show coming up right around the corner. It's tough. So, that's why I'm like, I feel good that we're planning so far ahead. I've got a great project manager in Nicaragua, Henry. I don't know if you guys have ever met him, but
No.
He manages all of the projects. So it's his job to tell me, it's like, hey, we got to order this packaging today or it's going to be late. All right, then it's my turn to go, shake the whole tree of Drew Estate and say, like, we got to get this expedited so this project happens on time so that when all that marketing energy that we make to make the noise, well, guess what? We want those consumers to be able to get those sticks right away. And so that's our new mantra, day one sales, and that's something that we take very seriously and making sure that we can make that success and that product can turn when it comes out, and that's how we get successful.
Like I said before, you guys make it look easy, but I know it's not. I mean, I know it's a grind, and you guys do it well. And so, as a lover of cigars, thank you. And as media, good for you guys. you guys do a great job. As we wind down towards the end of our show, because we're looking at the time, we're running out of time. I just want to say, thank you very much for being here with us tonight. I appreciate it. I know I've already said it before, but thank you. It's always a pleasure to have to talk with you and to as a whole have Drew Estate involved with us on the show. It's always a great time. You always have so many things to talk about and cover, which is that's what we want. But I other than that, unless there's anything I missed, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to bring up that we might have missed tonight on the show. But I think we covered a lot of the big parts of what Drew.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you guys for giving our company a platform where we can tell our story.
Right.
We want to get out there more and just let people know what we're about, and that we're working hard every day to try to make great cigars. We have a tenacious factory team constantly working on making the next round. Whether it's Acid, Cuba, whether it's Liga Privada, whether it's Factory Smokes, there's people behind there doing that job every single day, day in, day out. And, nobody sees the frustration. We're sitting in a room going like, what happened to that tobacco? Oh, it got used over here. We're like, what? That's the stuff people don't see. But what people do see, I hope people like. And if you've never smoked a Drew Estate cigar in your life, check out some Deadwood. Check out some Cuba. Check out some Liga Privada, some Undercrown, Herrera Esteli. I mean, it's a giant portfolio of brands that are unique. And we try to make a cigar for everybody because we think about the consumer and the experience of smoking our cigars. And then we build the community of people that love our cigars. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, check that one out. It's on Facebook, and you'll find a lot of other cigar smokers. And if you're actually looking for swag and you can't find it, somebody on that group is going to have it, and you might have to make it. But that's the culture we made, and I'm proud to be a part of that culture. It's the culture that attracted me to the mothership that I work from now. and it's a big responsibility for us to try to deliver for our retailers and our end consumers every single day. That's something that we care about deeply, the relationships that we forge with everybody in the cigar community. You don't have anything if you don't have the people that care about it, and we care about our consumers and our retailers, and hopefully they care about us, and that's what makes it all virtuous at the end of the day, where it's like, hey, we can all share in the success of having great cigars and a great environment where we can have new cigar smokers come into our stable of brands and smoke those cigars throughout their entire smoking life cycle. So it's a big deal that people give us. They believe in us. And that you're nothing without the people that believe in you. And so thank you for giving me a platform where we can tell our story and connect with our audience of people out there that want to learn more about Drew Estate.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, love having you guys here, and it's what we do, and we're here because we love it too, and we get to share that with everyone who watches and listens with us, who we also appreciate for helping us make it happen. So just a huge shout out to Drew Estate. Thank you guys for everything you do for not only us, but the industry and all of the consumers out there who know and love you all so much. I did put the link to our Drew Estate giveaway in the comment section, as I said before, so don't forget to check that out. It runs until Saturday at showtime, and 3 winners will be selected for each one of those items, and then Drew Estate will send them out to you, and we'll coordinate that when the time comes. But in the meantime, head over there, sign up for that giveaway. It's an awesome giveaway. You want to talk about, An's over here talking about swag and, getting your hands on swag. I mean, here's an opportunity right here, and you don't have to pay for it. You get to win it for free. So don't forget to check that out, because there's some really cool stuff in there. Like I said, ends Saturday. Winners will be announced on Spare Notes at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be our show for this week. Once again, thank you, Juan. Appreciate you being here. To everyone listening now or later on the downloads, thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe everywhere you can find your podcast, as well as Smokin Tabacco on all social media. And while you're at it, head over to SmokinTabacco.com for more news, reviews, and other updates from the cigar industry. And with that, we'll see you Saturday night with Coop and Kevin for Spare Notes. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
Have a good night.